In our last video, we saw the Democratic People's Republic of Korea's budding domestic armored industry struggle as the country endured famine during the arduous march of the 1990s. But as a new millennium dawned, so too did North Korea's domestic industry. In today's video, we'll look at the armored vehicles North Korea has introduced since 2000. Hello and welcome to another Tank Encyclopedia voiced article. I'm your host, Tony, and today I'll be covering part 2 of the development of North Korea's armored force post-Korean War. If you like our videos and want to support us, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal. All of the funds will be used to improve future Tank Encyclopedia content. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Since the turn of the century, North Korea has introduced a multiple of upgrades to its main battle tanks. Starting from the Chonma 98 first seen in 2000, the next Chonma was the Tu-14, which added applique armor, rubber flaps, and a new road wheel design seemingly inspired by the Soviet T-72, an example of which had been given to the North Koreans by Iran, who had captured it from Iraqis during the Iran-Iraq War of 1980 to 1988. In 2003, the Chonma Tu-15 was first observed. A significant improvement over previous designs, the Chonma Tu-15 has a lengthened hull with an additional road wheel and boasts an improved engine, better armor protection, and an updated fire control system, the capabilities of which are, naturally, classified. The Chonma Tu-15 has been quickly superseded by the Chonma Tu-16, which appeared in 2004. The hull has been further lengthened and the engine deck redesigned. Firepower may have been improved with the introduction of a 125mm tank gun on the Tu-16, but there is uncertainty as to whether the Tu-16 retains the 115mm of previous tanks or does carry a 125mm as standard or as a modification to the tank. The Chonma Tu-16 is sometimes known as the Pukpung-ho, meaning storm in North Korean. The name was given to the tank by international observers upon first sightings, on the assumption that the tank was an entirely new design rather than a significant advancement of the aged Chonma-ho. 6 years later, in 2010, the North Korea's latest tank was revealed, the M2010 Songun-ho, also known as the Songun 915. The M2010 features a cast turret mounting a 125mm gun, but unlike Soviet and Russian designs which utilized an autoloader, the Songun-ho makes do with a human loader. The tank has also been seen mounting additional weapon systems, such as grenade launchers, anti-air and anti-tank missiles during parades. Such modifications have also been seen on the Chonma Tu-16, but it is unknown if these add-on packages are standard practice or simply propaganda pieces for the camera. North Korea's latest unveiling was in 2020 with the M2020 MBT, a distinct departure from previous design. The M2020 appears to have taken design cues from the Russian T-14 Armata and American M1 Abrams. While the M2020 has a 125mm gun like most Soviet and Russian designed tanks, it lacks the ability to fire ATGMs with the main armament. Instead, a pair of missile launchers on the side of the turret appear to have been added to grant the tank its firepower. The tank also appears to be equipped with an active protection system, but it is not possible to say with certainty if the design is foreign or domestic origins. Although some observers dismissed aspects of the design, or in some cases the tank itself, as simple mock-ups, its reappearance in 2021 suggests that this tank is here to stay. But with the increasing frequency of the DPRK appears to be introducing new tanks, it is impossible to say how long the spotlight will shine on its latest model. North Korea's APC have not had quite the same lavish attention as that given to the main battle tanks. Only 2 new models have been spotted. The M2009 makes use of the M1981 amphibious light tank's hull, swapping out the main gun for a pair of 14.5mm machine guns, making space for personnel. The M2010 is a domestic version of the Russian BTR-80A, a number of examples of which were acquired from Russia in 2001. The standard M2010 swaps the 30mm cannon for a pair of 14.5mm machine guns, but is otherwise very similar to the BTR-80A. A second 6-wheeled variant has also been identified. Although believed not to be in service, several BTR-80s from the deal are still paraded around on occasion. Either the design is quite popular within the DPRK or it is used to remind observers that the Hermit Kingdom does still have some support from other more powerful nations. The artillery department has recently also procured a new self-propelled gun in the form of the M2018, apparently looking over the DMZ for inspiration. The M2018 bears a suspicious resemblance to South Korea's current SPG, the K9 Thunder. While a rather standard look compared to other modern SPGs, a 155mm cannon in a rear-mounted rotating turret, the SPG is an example of just how far the DPRK has come in 80 years of weapons development. From putting artillery on tractors to vehicles similar in appearance if not also in capability to those fielded by modern armies. Seemingly taking tips from the US Army, in 2020, North Korea unveiled a wheeled armored vehicle mounting a 122mm gun in a similar design to that of the US M1128 mobile gun system. Where this new vehicle will fit within the North Korean Army is unknown, and only time will tell if such a design will endure. Aside from these AFVs, the DPRK maintains a fleet of Transport Erector Launchers (TELs) that it uses to launch conventional and nuclear-armed ballistic missiles. During the Cold War, demand for TELs was supplied by the USSR in the form of MAZ 543, 547, and 7916s that still remain in service today, though these are not capable of carrying some of the North's heavier modern missiles. Since the USSR's collapse, new TELs have been provided by the People's Republic of China, which was accused by the UN in 2011 of supplying 8-axle WS 51200 TELs to the DPRK. 9 and 11-axle TELs have also been observed, but it is not known whether these are Chinese-supplied or domestically built models. An interesting note is that the TELs are incapable of directly firing the missiles they carry. They carry a launch pad upon which the missile is set up and fired from. Were any TELs to launch a ballistic missile directly, the power and heat from the missile would destroy the vehicle. While the North Korean army still prepares itself tactically and doctrinally for offensive operations against the South, the increasing economical and technological gaps within them have slowly swung the balance of power in favor of the South. An attack on South Korea by the North is unlikely to succeed, though not an impossibility. While new tanks and self-propelled guns appear in military parades, these vehicles make up a small fraction of the North's equipment. The DPRK has a habit of keeping old vehicles in service long past their use-by date, and it is not unfeasible that some vehicles, like the 323 APC, are in fact still in production even now. In a conventional ground war, North Korea's modern tanks and guns will likely be quickly used up, leaving North Korean units at a qualitative disadvantage against their South Korean or American counterparts. Ultimately, North Korea's survival sits upon a precariously balanced house of cards. The leadership of the DPRK are likely aware that the alternative to peace is the annihilation of the North Korean state. Similarly, the Republic of Korea views a fragile peace as preferable to the horrific civilian and military casualties that another conflict would ensure. The US would rather not have its interests in Asia destabilized by conflict, and would be fearful of Chinese intervention if they attempted an invasion of the North in a repeat of the Korean War. Similarly, China certainly doesn't want an ally of the US sitting on its border, nor does it want to deal with the refugee crisis that would occur from such a conflict. Above all these interests sits the sword of Damocles, the North's nuclear weapons and their willingness to use them. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, please leave a like and subscription. You can find more information about the AFEs of North Korea in the full article, which is linked in the description. If you like what we are doing and want to let us continue working on these videos, please consider donating on Patreon or PayPal. All of the funds will be allocated to improving our articles and videos for you. Until next time, keep us in your sights.